Welcome to Inside Abode, ladies and gentlemen. How are y'all doing? I am your host, Inside Abode, y'all. January. We already got through January. We're already in February. It is Black History Month right now. It's Black History Month. Before we get into our guest, I want to invite you to subscribe to the podcast. That's number one. We got gems and stuff like that. And number two, we're gonna have the Black History Month reflection series. I might pull some back up from the past because I've done them for years now. That is a whole library. You can actually go back in the podcast and look at every year we've done Black History Month reflection series. The first year I did it, I did 5 podcasts in 5 days. That was really dope. I've had some really dope stories for Black History Month, and actually, this might be one of them. It's not a Black History Month reflection series, but we'll be talking about changing the narrative today and in the real estate industry, and has a lot to do with that, in terms of just changing the narrative for Black and Brown people, changing the narrative for men in real estate and what that looks like. But I'm not going to be the one to talk about that because that's not for me to talk about. That's for my guest today to talk about. So, yeah, hit that subscribe button because we're about to go live. And for those of y'all watching live, chat with us. Let us know what's going on. Like, you can ask questions. We'll answer questions during the live. If you want to ask questions, feel free to ask. This is a collaborative situation here. So my guest today is a native of Trenton, New Jersey. I was going to say Newark, but Trenton, New Jersey. He's an Air Force vet. He has a degree in a master's degree and from Evergreen College. He's a program director for the Getaways, or I'm sorry, program director of the Gateways for Incarcerated Youth as well, and just an overall just impressive human being, and also just won an award for Tacoma Pierce County Association of Realtors as well. So shout out to him for that and the team. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for DeNiro Williams of the Royalty RE team. How you doing, man?
What it do? I'm good. I'm
Yeah,
good. I'm
yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah. That's dope. Thank you for taking the time to come on, man. It's a Friday afternoon, and you said you got a showing coming up too, like or a list or something.
Listing appointment.
Listing
Yeah. Yep.
appointment. Man, I was just like, of course you do. Like you're doing the thing, man. So yeah, tell the people about yourself a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm DeNiro Williams. Like you previously mentioned, I'm a transplant. Um, Originally from New Jersey. I got out here
Yeah.
by way of the Air Force, like you said, and I spent some time in Spokane. I was a survival instructor in the Air Force, survival,
Damn.
evasion, resistance, and escape. So yeah, I was in the mountains of Spokane for quite a while. Got out of there, got to travel the world, and it made me realize, oh, yeah, I, I see why I left New Jersey. Um, then when I got out of the military, I decided to come back to Washington because at that time, like around 2009, it was a little more cheaper
Yeah.
to live in this state. And I just
Yeah.
randomly, I chose Olympia. It was easy to get one
Olympia.
down, start over. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
So
dope. And then like you said, how long were you in Spokane doing that over there?
I did that for about 2 years, and then they relocated me to Travis Air Force Base in California.
Okay.
And did some time there, and then from there, I cross trained. I got tired
Okay.
of being in the woods, and then I became a dental technician. So that way I could just work a normal 9 to 5. Because I
Interesting.
realized quickly in the military, we all get paid the same. So why am I
Yeah.
working
Oh.
harder than.
Man,
Right?
who are we talking? I just had I went to breakfast last Sunday, and there was a couple cats, like one of the dudes, yeah, couple military cats, but they were talking about that. Like they're talking about how they started, oh, it was Air Force versus because they're Army dudes. And they're
Oh,
talking
okay.
about the Air Force dudes like and so they're like, yo, wait, what? Like about the pay and just how, yeah, you know.
Oh, yeah. If anybody will tell you, military wise, actually, my homeboy told me to go into the Air Force because he
Okay.
went into the Navy. And at the time, for me, I was just I was just getting out of playing baseball at Rutgers,
Okay.
and that just didn't go the route it should have. Had a kid on the way,
Hmm.
and I was like, man, what am I gonna do? You know. So I was like, hey, how was the military? And he said, man, if you're gonna do it for quality of living, you go into the Air Force, and that's what I did.
Interesting.
So
So,
anybody in the Army, Navy, Marines, unless they're like really gung ho about being on the front lines, they'll tell you go into they'll call it the chair force.
yeah, no, I was just gonna say because that's what my father-in-law we call it the chair force because
Yeah.
yeah, he's a he was in the Marines. But like so first of all, thank you for your service. But also like from baseball to like what made that shift? Like that's interesting.
uh, Not having any plans, not expecting to have a kid early,
Oh, okay.
because I had my first daughter when I was 20.
Okay.
So I was 2 years out of high school, and I was just like, I don't know what to do. New Jersey was
Hmm.
expensive even back then,
Yeah.
and I knew enough to know, well, at least from my mom saying, don't ever go to the ER if you get hurt, right? So, kind of like, if I have a kid with no insurance or benefits, this is going to be expensive in the long run. So really, it
Hmm.
was just about the benefits, being able to set something up for my family at the time.
Yeah.
So I just made the decision. Like I literally spoke to the recruiter, and I was in basic 2 weeks later.
Dang. That's
Yeah.
crazy. So fast forward to today, like you had a transition there. Talk about like what what led you to make the transition into real estate? Like so you're down south, down in Olympia area. And then you got into real estate. Tell me about how that happened.
Yeah. So that's interesting too, because I wasn't thinking about real estate ever.
Hmm.
My wife actually is a mortgage lender.
Okay.
So I met her. She was already a loan officer,
Okay.
and I've been in the background of the real estate industry for a long time, because I do have
Okay.
another job where I, like you said, program director of gateways for incarcerated youth. So I'm an
Mm,
educator at the Evergreen State College. So I was doing that for a while after I went back to school. My literally my plan was go. I'm gonna go back to school. I did 10 years in the military. Let me just finish my other 10 as an officer, because there's different steps if you are former enlisted. So I
okay.
can retire as a captain, but I'll be making like colonel pay, right?
Yeah.
When I
Okay.
retired, that was my plan. But then once I got out, I realized, oh, this is the reason why the military didn't work. I'm too logical of a thinker. I ask too many questions. You can't just tell me to do something just to do
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So once I started going to school, I realized I'm never going back. I started growing my locks, all that. I used to have locks down on my waist, right?
Okay.
And then playing softball, slow pitch softball is how I met my wife,
Okay.
and and then I learned. We ended up getting together, and then I learned more about real estate through her. But I
Yeah.
got into real estate during COVID, because Evergreen has
Mm,
no online presence, or it didn't back then. So when COVID
okay.
happened, I was just in the house playing video games, like wasn't nothing to do. And we have a blended family. We have 6 girls, so everybody was in the house, and so our bedroom became her office, and
Mm,
I got to hear more and more of the background from a loan officer about the industry, and I was like, oh, what does real estate agents do? And she told me,
yeah.
right, because she was complaining about y'all, right? And she's all about service, right? It's always
Yeah.
about how you treat the client, the customer.
100%.
And her complaint was agents that wasn't doing their due diligence to serve the customer. And I
Mm,
was like, oh, I've always been about service. And I was like, I asked her more and more about it. She let me know. And then I was like, got free time on hands. Let me take my test.
mm,
So that's how I got into it. But I didn't get into it about on the money, and I got into it because the first thing I thought about was I'm literally living with someone in the real estate industry, and I still have no clue
Mm,
about generational wealth through real estate and property ownership.
yeah.
So I learned a lot more about that. But it was for me to take back to my students that are incarcerated, my free students, to give back to my kids so they can set up a proper plan, and then my community. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where change the narrative came from as well.
Okay. That's dope. So has that always been something that you've been like moved towards, like in terms of equity and like changing the narrative, like working with incarcerated kids? Like, because I feel like there's like when like no matter what I'm doing, I'd be doing something in that realm because that's just my
Hmm.
fabric. You know what I mean? Is that the same for you, or is it something that you found later on in life?
Yeah, no, I think that's just who I am. I just always been a servant, um,
Yeah.
and I think I'm pretty decently humble. So I've been that person that's okay with seeing other people win, and I like helping
Hmm.
people get to those wins. So
Hmm.
it's bigger than me in a sense, and
Yeah.
I grew up in a place where I saw nobody win, and the only
Mm.
reason why I actually escaped it is because I played a white sport and was
Mm.
decently good at it enough for the white
Mm.
people to take me in and show me that there's more to the block.
Yep.
So I um, I carried forward even into the real estate game, and also there's a narrative in real estate agents that we're just all about money, and so they
Facts.
said, well, why should we pay them so much money, XYZ? And it's like, well, let me explain to you the service that I'm going to bring to you. And this
Hmm.
not only is going to help you for the rest of your life, but I also want to put you in a good position to make the most informed decision possible for yourself.
Yeah.
So having a research background, being an educator is just a natural thing for me to be able to learn, want to learn more, so I can educate my clients, my students, my people.
Yeah, you know what I find interesting when we talk about like the pay part, like in terms of paying for real estate services or realtor
Hmm.
services, is like we'll happily pay a doctor, we'll happily pay the university godly amounts of money to the point we're in debt $70,000 after 4 years. You know what I mean? And in that time,
Hmm.
you're gonna have bad professors, you're gonna have you know what I mean? Like you're gonna have bad service at times. Like I
Yeah.
just I find that interesting that we, for whatever reason, in the real estate industry, get questioned on our worth and value when you're actually buying a an asset that's going to appreciate in value, and we're trying to help you like get into that. You know what I mean? Like
No, absolutely.
I don't know. It trips me out all the time when the more I think about it, when I'm thinking about it.
No one
Uh,
questions the car salesman for selling you a
Come
depreciating
on, man.
item,
Come on.
right? So,
Come on.
yeah. Hmm.
Um, yeah, so like so you get into real estate, you start with, and did you guys build a team like right away, or was that just did that like form after you'd already
So
started?
I knew early on that I had the big question was for people is how do you create a database?
Mm,
And I already knew I had different spheres of influences that I could tap into. So I had
yeah.
my colleagues at Evergreen and students, right? I have my softball community. I
Mm,
have friends and family, and so I was like, oh, I have plenty of places where I could reach in. That's database right off top.
right.
But what I did was even for myself and what I wanted to do in real estate was I did a SWOT analysis on my dreams,
Mm,
right?
dang.
And by by doing that, I said if I want to do X Y Z, then I have to put systems in place that allow me to do X Y Z. So
Okay.
once I got somewhat busy, then I added, uh, well, at that time, before I got here, a transaction coordinator who ended up becoming my licensed assistant, right?
Okay.
And then I added another agent to the team, and then the fourth agent. But also, it's a natural thing too. I mean, you can attest to it as an owner. Like
Hmm.
managing people is not easy,
Mm,
right? But I've been
right.
doing that in my other job
Yeah.
forever, so it just comes natural. As well as I'm a coach in slow pitch, so um, those things are easy. And like I said earlier, I love to help people, and that I want to see the agents that work with me and my colleagues and my brokers win, right?
Yeah.
So building a team, it made sense for me to be able to be successful, right? I saw other agents like at Keller Williams, like big, massive teams, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it is, it's kind of, it's not multi-level marketing, but that's the basis of it,
I
right? Like,
mean, that's yeah. I mean,
right? But
I always be like, all right, well, who's focusing on the client? If you
mm-hmm,
focusing on like building this big old team or whatever, who's focusing on the actual client that's buying and selling the house? Because that's what I care about the most. Like,
yeah,
not saying I'm not hating on the method at all.
yeah,
I just worry or I get concerned about how much time is spent in that realm versus actually, or from where I'm at, helping the agents, helping like
yeah,
support over supporting agents, and then for so that our agents can over support clients, like period, end of story. You know what I mean? Like that's
yeah,
the thing.
absolutely.
Um,
Yeah, and I've
so
already run into those issues, right? Where if I didn't have a team behind me, people will get lost, and then now
yeah,
that's looking bad on me, right?
yeah,
Because you have to be able to fulfill. For me, it's always I want to be accountable to my clients,
mhm,
and I want to be punctual, right? And then I'm going to be honest. So
yeah,
whenever I even meet a new client, I bring my whole team into the fold because there's
yeah,
going to be some points in time where I'm going to be not able to meet a client's needs because our clients
yeah,
don't understand that we have other clients,
yeah, yeah.
and they can know that, but they're never going to truly like
Nah, yeah,
care because it's all about them in the moment.
right.
So if I want to close 42 sides in a year, then I need to have systems in place that allow me to do that,
That's your
but
goal.
also still have my integrity. Yes,
Yeah,
that's my goal for
that's
2025.
what's up. I love it.
True.
You're gonna reach it.
Yeah, I
You're,
should.
you're
I
gonna reach
better.
it. Yeah, no, you're gonna reach it. Like I don't have any doubts. I've seen you work. I've seen how you move. You're always you put in the time, you put it, you're there, like I've been impressed, and I was just like, man,
Thank you.
because you spot it, you got it type thing. Because I'm like, oh yeah, you're a grinder, just like
Hmm.
yeah, I'm a grinder, man. I'm gonna figure it out. I'll figure out a way.
Yeah,
And I see that in you, and it's just like, but you also do it with like such a like you said, humility and grace, and helping others along the way, which I think that's how I know you're gonna win, because that quality it attracts people. And I can already see that, and I'm just like, yeah. And then when you have the tools and the backing and all that stuff behind you, you got the wind at your back.
yeah.
Because
That's
people
why I
like
came here.
us, yeah, but people like I tend to pick the hard route all the time because I want to help people a lot. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And where you come from or where we come from or where I came from, like where it was just like I didn't have a lot growing up, and I share
Hmm.
everything and like I just didn't have a lot. And so I always want to be in that space, help people, but also I don't know, man. You get what I'm saying.
No,
I
I get
don't
what you're saying.
you already know what I'm
Yeah,
saying. So
absolutely. And boundaries is key too, right? Like knowing your
come on,
capacity, right?
come on.
I recognize that early on. I have another full time job. I can't let that go by the wayside just because I'm chasing this new dream or
Hmm.
desire that I have.
Yeah.
So that's part of that SWOT analysis, right?
Hmm.
And for people that don't know, that's strength, weaknesses,
Yep.
opportunities, and threats. Or you can do
Yep.
SOAR if you don't like the hard language of SWOT.
um, what's been your biggest challenges like? Because like the way you show up is authentic, is you. You know what I'm saying? And we're in Washington. There's not a lot of black people here, basically. And you're not you don't look like a traditional realtor, just like sometimes I look like a traditional realtor, but sometimes I don't, and
Yeah.
or look like a traditional realtor or owner at that, or
Hmm.
anything, a coach, whatever position you're playing, whatever role you have, a teacher, educator like you are, you don't y- you don't look like they do in Washington. But like if you go to other areas of the country, you look normal. to me,
Yeah.
just because
Oh
I've
yeah.
had that experience. But like a lot of people haven't had that experience up here. What challenge have you navigated any challenges around that, or what does that look like in the real estate space for you?
Um, I think some of the challenges have been in the industry. It's just from other agents, other colleagues in the industry.
Mm,
There's a lot of bullying that happens in the industry,
yep,
especially because you can look up and see how many years a person's been in the industry. So
yep,
just off rip, people are just trying to take advantage, which is crazy to me.
yeah,
And I'll just say years or time in service don't matter in this industry because things
mm,
are the ebbs and flow, the changes in
yep,
policy, all the different things. Like there's people that I've come across that's been in the industry for 25 years and they have no clue what they're doing today.
hmm,
I mean, just being real and honest about it because they
yep,
don't train themselves, they don't keep up with the passage of time. But so bullying is one. I think another obstacle is really just I really had to learn how to time block, use a calendar,
mm,
like be really intentional about my day, um, and then also find time for me.
mm,
You know, um, I've I've Jasmine has told me you need to take a day, right?
yeah,
And I only been here for 6 months, but
yeah.
it's like
I
yo,
know
you
you
need to take
bad
a
at
day. You're
that.
doing too much.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know you're bad at that.
So,
I already know.
um, because even when I go on vacation, we're working. But that's something I learned from my wife. She never stops working. She probably works 18-hour days if she added her overtime.
Yeah,
Because when people need what they need, you gotta show up for them, or they're gonna go to the next person.
yeah. And there's a reason why y'all doing what you're doing
Hmm.
because that's how you're wired. And I do subscribe to what Jasmine's telling you, and I
Yeah.
try to do that myself. We're not very good at it. None of us are, but um, but I do subscribe to that as well. Like, can't pour from an empty cup is what I always like to say. Like to myself, just
Absolutely.
reminding myself, like if I want to keep doing what I'm doing, you can't pour from an empty cup. So take that day. You know what I'm saying? And like, chill
Hmm.
out. One thing that really impressed me upon meeting you was you talking about your work with incarcerated youth and so talking about changing the narrative, how does that changing the narrative and working with the incarcerated youth, how does that marry into like the business that you're doing today? Like, is that your driver pretty much, or is that just, that's weaved into your business plan and business model? I see it's a slogan that you go by for the team and all that.
Hmm.
Um, like talk a little bit about that and what changing the narrative means to you.
So for me, I've been a systems person. Like I already talked about systems, but
Hmm.
like understanding the system of oppression in this
Hmm.
country allows you to maneuver through it
Mm.
um, a lot easier
Come
with a
on.
little more peace, right? Because the system is doing exactly what it's intended to do, right?
Yep.
So instead of complaining about it, just learn about it, and then help those also get informed about it. So when I go into um, a prison, I'm
Hmm.
first off, I'm my goal is to go in there. We use popular education. So popular education is a pedagogy that we that is the exact opposite of the banking model. So our K to 12 system
Okay.
is built on just filling people's,
Yep.
you just somebody's in front of you and they're just telling you this is what you need to learn,
Yep.
and then you regurgitate it out back on the test, and they give you a
Yep.
score, and you move on to the next thing. Right? Popular education is built up around community learning off of
Yep.
everybody's experiences. So even if we're talking about physics, for example, right? Yeah, there's going to be somebody that knows a little more, and they're
Hmm.
facilitated, but everybody in their life has some experience with physics,
Yep.
right? In their day to day, and should have the opportunity to talk about it. And through that communal learning, um, everybody's a teacher, everybody's a student, and that's the best way to get people in in love with learning itself, right?
Yep.
And so that's how we start, and we enter the spaces like that. But eventually, they start talking about their own lives because that's the only experience they have. So then we start talking more about the systems that got them caught up. And when we're
Mm,
talking more about the systems that are caught up and what they're in and what their rights are and different things like that, then they learn how, at that point, how to advocate for themselves. They get more autonomy, and they can find agency, even within a place that there is none.
mm,
And once you have education and learning, and you fight for yourself, you're going to do that even more so when you re-enter society. So
okay.
so that's kind of the purpose. So changing the narratives is not just about, oh well, just because you grew up on a hilltop, you're supposed to be where you are,
Yeah.
right? I mean, honestly, like I heard about the raids back in the day, and I met some of the men that were caught up in that in DOC because I also worked in adult prisons,
Yeah.
and then I got to meet a lot of their kids who followed their path, right? So I knew more about Tacoma before I even moved to Tacoma,
Mm,
and so all those kids that are in the system, I'm just trying to help them for one, just come back out and be a citizen in our society that actually improves our economy, society, everything, as
right.
well as hey, you also if you put your head down and you grind, you can own a home.
Yep.
I'm doing a lot of this education and teaching about real estate and generational wealth in the
Yep.
prison because that's the first thing they ask. How can I be a real estate agent? Because they see the all these. They have TVs. They see selling sunset and all that stuff,
Yeah.
right? Like so. They always ask, "How can I do it?" But also, I'm in there wearing my gear all the time. Like
Yeah.
I don't ever not wear something that says royalty real estate.
Yeah.
So it's just natural questions and just giving them that financial literacy. It's the same thing we should be doing for the kids that aren't caught up in the school to prison pipeline or on the cusp or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
just give them a dream, some hopes, because that what got them there is the fact that they had none.
Yeah.
So just changing that narrative, right? Because they have that internal, they have that internalized racism and stigmata that we all grew up with, and they
Mm,
never got the opportunity to see the other avenue like I did. Because for me, I saw all my friends disappear on the block, and I didn't know where they went.
right.
You know, I just figured they moved away. And once I got to Evergreen and I was a part of the class as a student, I was like, oh, it didn't
Yeah.
hit me, right? I never even realized that half my friends probably just was in some youth incarceration facility, and I just
Right.
never realized that's what happened. And so it's an invisible population that's going to be coming back to Tacoma, and it's like, well, let me help them be a little more prepared.
Yep.
So
No, that's
that's the
that's
motivation.
yeah, that's commendable, man. To stick with that too. And like as someone that's put, 12, I put my time in the education space and taught for 12 years and then administrated for 3 and it was a different experience, but similar drive, like in terms of and I did do basketball and coaching and all these other avenues, Breakfast Club, and just trying to build community and just be accessible. That's all, like just being
Yep.
accessible. So I feel you on that. But my challenge at least was at that time was I didn't understand the systematic oppression, even though I felt it and I couldn't acknowledge it, but I didn't have the verbiage and the education on like what it was and specifically like
Yep.
how could I put all this together? So then I just started reading, especially in 2020. I was reading so before that actually it was like more like 2000, probably actually when I got my master's, like that's when I really started diving in and I was already diving in before that. But like just understanding the systems and how deep it is. Like so for example, I'll give one example of like private prisons, for-profit prisons and how they work, and they have MOUs with the state and yada yada yada. And then those interests that own the private prisons have interest in the music business. You know what I'm saying? And so when we hear that what we hear, there's a reason for that because they got to
Yep.
fill beds. They're for profit. They're not here to like please anybody. They're here to make money. That's why JPay, for example, is the biggest scam in the
Yes.
world, bro. Like it costs you, if people knew about that, like I feel like they would be up in arms. Like it costs you that much to send an email or
Yeah.
make a phone call. Like it's wild, bro. Like in terms of how oppressive and how much we take advantage of incarcerated people in general.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you look at the data of who's in there, like we already know who's in there in terms of disparities. So that's what I mean by like the reading is like getting
Mm-hmm.
really deep in that, getting really deep in like medicine and the
Yep.
medical racism. And I talk about white supremacy a lot on my channels and whatnot. But when I say that, I'm talking about centering whiteness and oppression,
Mm-hmm.
and it comes in such nuanced ways, like you talked about, like we have the stigmas. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like I carry that too. I carry that. Like, and I have to address my own. And so
Mm-hmm.
if I have to do that, imagine white people like that
Yeah.
don't know or have any, you know, if I have to walk myself back and I'm educated
Yeah.
on this, like that's crazy and try to undo some of the things that I think about myself or think about, like the systems of the world in general,
Mm-hmm.
my worldview, um, because it's been centered in whiteness up to this point, up until I started educating myself, because that's how I was taught.
Yeah.
Um, I think that it's really deep, man. It's really
No.
deep and it really, I don't know, man. Like, so like what we're going through right now, for example, we can sit here and talk about it all day long because we know it. But then when it happens,
Mm-hmm.
people are like, I'm so surprised. I'm like, don't stop saying that.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be surprised. Why are you surprised? This is what we've been doing. Like, this is what has been going on for years, for more than hundreds, centuries, globally.
Absolutely.
So yeah, just interesting that what's the thing that you've learned the most from working with the incarcerated youth? Like what do you see in that work that you say like, damn, I thought this, but it's really this.
Um, that everybody's beautiful inside. Like,
Mm,
there's different levels of intelligence.
yep,
Because I mean, these kids are smart. You know,
yeah,
they read more than most of us, right?
facts.
So, and when you, it's just like to think about a kid that's got juvenile life, for example, right now in the state of Washington. They can catch that case at 15, and they get out when they're 25. It's not really 10 years for them. That's like
Right.
75 years, a hard time, right?
That's
And they still
which
come
is
out
egregious.
positive. Yeah.
Yeah,
And they still positive about life when they get out at 25. And we out
right.
here complaining about what? Like when you
Yeah,
put it in perspective, so for me, it's just like there's no excuse to be made. Like if I want something, I can go get it, I can go do it. So just why not do it? There's no
yeah,
reason to make an excuse. Just get off my ass per se, and then just go and make it happen, right?
yeah,
And have I don't have the barriers that they're going to deal with, right? I don't have those stigmas other than just being a black man in a white man's world. But outside of
right.
that, there's really no excuse for me.
Hmm.
I can make it happen. So,
I love,
and there's
yep,
plenty of success stories coming out of incarceration. And if they can make it happen, there ain't no reason for someone that's not caught up in the justice system to complain, whine, or anything. Just get up and
that's
do it,
facts.
right? If you have a dream, it's attainable. It might be harder for some than others, but what are you complaining about? Go do it.
Yep.
So
I
that's what
love, I
I've
love how
learned.
yeah, that's good, man. I love how you say there's different types of intelligences because
Mm-hmm.
I, like some of your smartest people are from the block. Some of your smartest business people and entrepreneurs are from the block. They know how to get that money. They know how to get to the
Yep.
paper, but they might not have the skill set to move to navigate the business world or, the corporate world or whatever. But in terms of the skill set, like the bag is deep for some folks.
Yes.
And I do like how you're saying, because like, for example, like the last time in 2016, for example, when the orange dude was elected, I wasn't prepared mentally for that. And I was on the defensive a lot. And what I learned was I learned the game, like understanding, okay, they're gonna do this socially while they're running up the bag over here. Like I'm watching over here. I'm like, I haven't been watching over here, like the capitalist world, because in the capitalist world, it's a whole different game. There
Yeah.
it's not they just doing all this and getting you all riled up, and over here they don't even care. They're not even tripping.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're just getting to it. And I'm like, oh, okay. So that's why you want to get all crazy and do all this, because you trying to keep me out of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I like this time I'm like offensive. And what I mean by that is not like I'm gonna be an activist. And actually I had a young brother that said this the other day. I used to teach him and he's like really, he's one of them young active. He's like, I'm gonna be out in the streets. And I was just like, brother, what I've learned is it takes all of us. We need you in the street. And
Mm-hmm.
there's boardrooms and places around here that need to call people on their bullshit too. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like there needs to be someone in those spaces too. And that's what I've learned is we have to there's levels to everything, and not levels in terms of up and down, but just there's different spaces that we have to inhabit to ensure that this work keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's kind of been my biggest learning. And so that's what I mean by being offensive is not being on my heels and moving forward and being like forthcoming about it. You know what I mean? And like and getting after it and changing things and just yeah, we have to fight it with moving forward and just being offensive. That's how I see it this time. I'm like, oh, I already know that. I got the answers to the test.
Absolutely.
I already have the answers to the test. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I
So
mean,
I
I know
like
we
your
want to
message
change
of
the.
like, yeah, I
No,
like
for
your
sure.
message.
And I know we want to change the world, right? But I mean, we got to look at ourselves as whatever your level of radicalization is, right? And we, you got to start it in your own community, right? So that's why I
Facts.
love um, Washington State. Is like coming from New Jersey and coming to Washington State. I'm like, oh wow, like the progression, even though it's let's be real, it's baby steps. It's still a
Yeah.
lot more than it could be in that it is in other places.
Hmm.
And while we have these opportunities to build up our communities, we have to take advantage of it, and we have to be able to grasp the people within our community and educate them on what the
Hmm.
opportunities that we have to create and make better for our families in comparison to other places. Like people people here or black people here oftentimes feels comfortable to me, right? Like, oh, because you just don't
Yeah.
know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And like for example, here's an example. I
Yeah. Come on.
took so Ashley's from Tacoma and took it to the East Coast, and she was like, "Wait, hold on." We were driving through Baltimore, and she was like, everybody red fins when they go somewhere else, right? Like, how much is that?
Yeah.
It's like, wait, hold
Yeah.
on, you could buy a whole block of row houses for 10K? Yes,
Yeah.
right? Like
That's
you
crazy.
can, right? So, and in her head, she was like, "Wow, there's so much more that I would be able to do with the money I have in Washington
Yeah.
comparatively over there." And I'm like, yeah, and it's more
Yep.
expensive there. So just imagine how people feels a boot is on their neck, right?
Yeah.
We have a lot more opportunity here to really grow and prosper,
Hmm.
in the black and brown community here.
Yep.
And that's not to say it's not jacked up, because it is, but there's slivers of hope that we can take advantage
Hmm.
of, that we have to make sure that our communities do the same. Like, I'm a transplant. I'm going to be a Tacoma. I consider myself a Tacoma native at this point. I'm not leaving,
Yeah. We got you.
right? So,
Yeah.
so I might as
Yeah.
well. I mean, I don't know what you call. I don't know if I'm a Tacoma native. Whatever word it is when you're
You just from
accepted,
Tacoma now, man. As long as
adopted.
you claim it, you
Oh,
good. Yeah. Yeah. You good.
but yeah. I mean, my kids grew up here. I mean, I want them to see their community thrive. You
Hmm.
know, and I want them to have pride. And there's a lot of opportunity for us here, and we just need to really lean in. And I mean, that starts with understanding our rights, understanding
Yep.
how the government works, understanding how we need to vote locally. And I was, it was funny. So when I was at,
What's up?
I'm gonna give a shout out to the Black Housing Initiative. We had a summit
Yeah, y'all went to
last
that
Tuesday.
yesterday. I'm mad I missed that, but yeah, it looked dope.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that the mayor of Olympia was black. It's like, why is that
Mm,
not known? Like,
I didn't know that.
yes. So I was just like, wait, what do we, what? So, and
Yeah,
there's a
that's a
lot more
lot of
black mayors
disconnect.
popping up all over the country, but I had no clue. And
I didn't know.
I work in Olympia all
That's
the time.
crazy.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, things like that needs to be broadcasted more. Our community needs to see
Agreed.
those wins. And
Well, now people know.
yeah.
If they listen, they know now. Now I know. You just
Yeah.
educated me.
Yeah, so
So
it's just things like that. We're here. We have the opportunity. We got to take advantage. And while
yeah.
we're in those spaces, we need to do what the orange guy is doing, right? Like, he gets in that space and he
Yeah.
just does whatever the hell he wants. So when we're in that space, let's do what we need to do for our people, because he's
Being
doing it for his
offensive.
group. Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like, and not letting like some of these he's just gaslighting. Like, cause okay, you want to
Mm-hmm.
take away Black History Month and like literally taking away from government agencies all the celebratory, holidays or clubs and things of that nature. West
Mm-hmm.
Point was I saw seen in the military they doing that. It's crazy, but like it's gaslighting because you know what's gonna happen when the orange guy's out? They're just gonna reinstate them all.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So like stop getting crazy about that. We already know he's a bigot. Like, and let's be offensive and not and don't worry, like that's not forever. Like some of these things
Mm-hmm.
are, and they're gonna set us back a long time. Don't get it confused. But
Yeah.
like, but our job is to continue what our people before us have done. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how I see it at least. It might not happen in my time, but it's gonna be better,
Yeah.
you know? Like it's gonna be better. Um, and it doesn't look one way. And everyone like might be like, oh well, how do I small each one teach one? You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
Pac would say, like just it could be one person and you did your job. Like if you just educate one person, you're
Yep.
good. Like cool. Like I don't know, man. Like I just think I really enjoy hearing how you approach this and coming from where you come from. I think it's really good to hear someone come at it from a really thoughtful perspective and a thoughtful way of doing it and not being you're not putting pressure on people to be whatever, but like just be offensive and like get what's yours
Mm-hmm.
and educate people on that. Like you're doing really good work, man, and just I really commend you for it, and it
Thank you.
inspires me. You know what I mean? You inspire a lot of people, I'm sure. But it inspires me to talk to people like you as well, to continue doing what we're doing because we need that because it is hard work.
Yeah.
You need
It
you
is.
need that. It's hard work, but it's worth it, and all the relationships you have and all that. So with all of this, what's next for you? Like, how do you plan on continue doing this? Is it just going to be kind of like it doesn't look what does this work look like for you and the royalty team in 5 years? Same?
Um. So in 5 years, um, oof, I had I got asked by Jasmine. It's like, hey, you ever thought about ownership?
Hmm.
Maybe in 5 years, that's what I'm doing. Listen,
Yeah,
if I do 42 this year, I'm gonna do 84 sides next year. That's. I mean, I gotta keep growing and growing. Right?
yeah,
There's no reason to put a ceiling on myself. Um, so yeah, let's say that I'm gonna be
yeah.
an owner in Windermere in 5 years. I'm gonna
I love
follow.
it.
I'm gonna follow. The Joneses and Jefferson's
I love
path,
no, I
and
love hearing
be
that.
that third black um, brokerage in Windermere. Why not?
I love it. I love it. And because you have the right mindset, you have the right disposition, you have the right, I think that's the key is having that servant leadership mindset.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of it, but also I'll say just from this seat, it's not. You're not doing it for the money.
Mm-mm.
If you want to do it for the money, we'll go sell real estate. That's just being real.
Yeah.
We would just go have a real estate team and just go do that. If that's what we really wanted to do is run it up, then that's just it. I'll just go do that. But that's not what this is about. It's about you.
Mm-hmm.
It's about like now look at this. Like this turned into this, which
Mm-hmm.
is crazy. I would have never imagined in a million years. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
that's why it's like you almost can't even say what 5 years looks like because if you keep moving how you move, like it's limitless.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of people you're going to influence and help is limitless. And yeah, and that's a special feeling when you don't really know where it's going to go, but you know it's going to be better than now and it's going to be super dope.
Oh yeah,
Like that's a
absolutely.
good feeling.
Yeah.
That's a good feeling. Um so I think that yeah, that was my last question, man. Do you have any other
Okay.
thing to get off burn it off your chest and just you know what I mean? Like yeah.
Um. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, people always ask like, I didn't think that doing 25 sides was a big thing,
Mm,
right? And so after I won the Rookie of the Year award, a lot of people
congratulations by
was
the way on
asking.
that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A lot of people was asking that, and I was like, "Aren't you doing that too?" Right? Like, and if they aren't, I'm just like, man, just lead with compassion, lead with love, put your head down and grind. Be
Yeah.
okay with doing what they did in the '60s. Well, not the redlining and all that stuff, but how did how did agents get clients back in the day, right? They had to knock on a door. They had to
Yeah.
talk about themselves. They had to promote. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
so I think about like how did they do it in the '80s? We'll say when there wasn't all of this social media and ways of getting yourself out there. Um, if you're okay with doing that, and then you incorporate all of this new age technology, um, you're gonna dominate. And 25 was not hard. I did 25 with another full time job.
Mm.
So I think only people just limited themselves. Um, they putting ceilings on what they can do. Just like just knock the ceiling off. Just you know,
Yeah.
yeah. Just
Okay, I
dream.
do I do have another question that's kind of
Okay.
similar to that's kind of now you just got me thinking about it. Like, do you feel and this isn't I'm not trying to blow the horn of Windermere or anything like that, but the difference between having that wind behind your back did you see much of a difference in terms of like and I know I'm feeding you this question. I'm not trying to
Yeah.
like get to an answer. I just want to be clear.
Yeah.
What differences have you seen in terms of that support? Has that helped you get to that 25 easier? Or, you know what I mean? Like, what's been the difference in terms of having that support and that backbone for your business?
Absolutely. So this is my third brokerage, right? Just
Hmm.
being fully transparent. My first one was, I mean, they were nice people, but it was a racket. Like I made them $90,000 in my first year, and I only made, you know, chump change, right?
Yeah,
So they
yeah,
got me. I didn't know better, right?
yeah.
And when I realized um, what was going on, I started asking questions. So I started asking other people that I kind of knew in the industry, like, "Hey, what is your split? All those things, whatever." So at that time, I was thinking about what works best for me,
Yeah,
right? Um, the great thing about the first burgers, they allowed me to build my brand.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I will never. Um, that was the greatest thing I got out of that. The money was whatever. I
yeah,
got to build a brand and start that, right?
yeah.
And then the next brokerage I went to was all about it. It was the split was just basically me getting everything. But when I only paid 10% to the brokerage, I got no services, right? I mean, I
Can't
kind of had an
can't can't
office.
can't run a business with no with no money.
Yeah, I had nobody
Yeah,
behind me, so it was like, and then I was starting a team, and as much as I can help a person like go
hmm,
and put their boots to the ground, I still had no knowledge about the business itself.
yeah,
So when Jasmine approached me, I was just like, oh, it was just like, wait, y'all do all that? Wait, I'm able to do what I'm doing without having all of that. Oh yeah, I'm going through I'm going to the moon easy.
Yeah,
I can do that. But
yeah.
beyond me, it was really about my team, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
now they are getting the things that I couldn't provide. Um, as a team leader, they're getting
yeah,
all of that in the brokerage. So just coming to Windermere and specifically, the Abode family was really
yeah,
like, yeah, it transformative. Like it helped me sharpen my sword even better, right? Like
yeah,
I was already out there doing my thing, but now I got all the tools, right?
yeah.
So
Nah,
yeah,
and you be
so
using them. So like, yeah, between clothes and Real Scout and all the things, like
hmm
I just love how you're using them. And that because that's how I am. You're resourceful.
yeah, absolutely, make it work for me,
Take that thing
right?
and figure out how it's going to work for your business.
hmm
Um, so I really enjoyed watching that too. But yeah, I just wanted as you were talking, I was like, yeah, I mean, like you're gonna get there. I don't have any doubt that you're gonna get to wherever you're gonna get, whatever goal you're gonna put up there, because you do have support of your team. You do have people, and they're all dope and good people, and they're gonna work hard and show up for you, and all that, and then you have the brokerage backing, and like just it's really exciting to watch where you're gonna go. I just put it that way. It's really exciting. I'm excited to see where you're gonna go. But that's all I got for the regular part of this. And then now we got one last section. It's
Okay.
called hot take,
hmm
and basically it's a either or. You just got to choose one or the other. And
Okay.
hot take. You ready for hot take? We'll end
All
on
right.
hot take. All right. So ice cream or cake?
Ice cream.
Ice cream. Are you a sweets person?
Yeah, I do have a sweet tooth. I can't even lie about
Yeah.
it. That's my real vice. Yeah.
For real. All
Yeah.
right. So, okay. So to that, uh, you can only have one for the rest of your life, and you can't have the other one for the rest of your life. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, you keeping that, or you keeping the turkey sandwich?
The turkey sandwich.
Oh, you're gonna get
My
rid of
grandma
PB
used
and
to
J's?
my grandma made me PB&J every day, and it got to a point where like I started, if I smell it, just the trauma behind eating PB&Js
The
like three times a
trauma.
day, it's just like, yeah, I can't do it. So you
That's
can become
funny.
allergic to something just by having it too much. So I think that's what happened with PB&J.
You said the trauma.
Yeah.
That's all right. So what about this one? You can't. I've never. This one's kind of elaborate. I'm starting to get more elaborate with my hot takes.
Okay.
Um, you can't leave Washington, but you get 5 million. But you can't leave Washington ever again, and you get 5 million. Or you get to travel wherever you want, but you don't get the 5 million. But you do have access to leave Washington. Would you take the 5 million, but you cannot leave Washington ever again the rest of your life? You can't even go back home. You can't do nothing. You cannot leave Washington, bro. You can't even get on a boat and go to up to San
Man,
Juan Islands. You gotta stay in Washington. You can't even go
that's
to
tough
Canada.
because
You can't go to
I know what I
Oregon.
could do. Damn, I know what I could do with the 5 mil.
Yeah.
Which people don't realize what's so great about Washington is like it has every climate in the world. That's why the survival tree
hmm
is here, right?
mm
So you got tropical rainforest, you got a desert, you got all those things, right? The state has everything, so you can
Yeah.
find it all. And what I would do with that 5 mil is like I'm flipping that easy, but
Yeah. Yeah. But
man,
you
I do
can't
love
leave.
I love traveling, so I'm a I'm gonna take the traveling. Like I'm
Oh
going on a
yeah.
cruise. I'm going to the Bahamas next week, so
Oh, for real? Oh,
yeah,
dope.
yep,
Yeah, no, I actually wouldn't take the 5 million, because you know what? You're gonna make it.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you having to, like, if I'm not confident I can do that, then I might consider it. But I'm confident in my rest of my lifetime I can get to that bag. Like,
Yeah, no,
or at
absolutely.
least I can try. You know what I mean?
hmm
Like I don't know if I ever get to, but I can try, and I would bet on myself for that. But yeah, I ain't staying. Why I can't do that
Yeah,
personally. Like,
being able to experience
uh
other cultures is life changing. So I tell people all
man,
the time, please leave wherever you're from.
hmm
Just go somewhere, see something new,
anywhere.
even if it's in the
Even just
states.
within the states.
hmm
Like. but I haven't traveled internationally, and so we're talking about Japan this year, and I'm really excited for that because
Oh,
I'm afraid I
yeah, that's
might
gonna
not
be
want to
dope.
come back. Like,
You won't.
yeah,
You won't want to come back.
I know because I'm quarter Japanese too, so that's part of my heritage. Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna go back, so like I know I'm gonna be over there. Like, man, I love it over
Yeah.
here. Like, all right, so Redman or Method Man?
I'm always gonna say Big Jersey, so it's Redman. Method Man. I'm a Wu Tang. I grew up in Wu Tang. Wu Tang was for the children. Was for me.
Yeah.
I'm a 5%er, so like everything
Okay.
they talk about is. But I gotta give it to Redman. Redman. I mean, most people's top five. Redman's. If you're into hip hop,
Yeah, I'm in it. Yeah, come on.
no, I know you are, but
Oh
I'm just
yeah,
saying for
yeah,
people
yeah.
in general. If you're into hip hop, you can't deny Redman.
No, you
Like
can't.
he's got to be in your top 15. Like
Ooh, top 15?
yes, he has to be.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
he makes Redman was, I would say, ludicrous, right? I feel like
Yeah,
was he might. I don't know if he'll ever say it, or I never heard him say it, but Redman had to be one of his inspirations because Redman was doing all of the ludicrous stuff before
I agree
Ludacris.
with that. That's a good take. That's a good take.
Yeah,
That's a good hot take. I've never heard that one, but I would agree.
yeah,
Yeah,
Memphis
man,
was like the
Redman,
first,
man, we could have a
like
whole
kind of.
discussion about Redman. Um, his albums were so instrumental. What the album, obviously, that three album run,
Mm-hmm,
of there is a dark side, and
mm-hmm,
then Muddy Waters. Muddy Waters is one of my favorite
mm-hmm.
albums of
Super
that
classic.
era. Um, and then he had Docs as the name. Like he had some joints that were like he was the pinnacle at that time. So I can understand why you say like so when people might hear or young bulls might hear like I'm sitting here saying like, yo, at that time, man, like there really wasn't nobody messing with Redman lyric, like just in terms of rapping. Like he was
Mm-mm.
his content wasn't deep, but the
No.
his rapping though was like top tier. Like
Yeah.
just the way he rapped, the way he put words together, and just everything. His flow, his cadence, his voice,
Mm-hmm.
the beats, all of it.
He just got boxed in Jersey, and
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
was.
I could see that. I could see that. All right, one last one. Winter or summer? That's an easy one, probably, but maybe I don't know. You might like winter.
I hate snow, so it's it's definitely summer, but it has to be a West Side Washington summer.
Oh, you don't
like
like
just
the hot,
80
hot.
degrees is. I don't want anything more than 80.
Yeah, I feel
Like
that.
I'm not trying to
Yeah,
sweat to death, and no. And then I
yeah,
also, I mean, I burn. I'm sure you burn and peel and all that.
yeah.
They think black people don't, but we do, right?
Yeah.
So I'm good. Give me 80 degrees, you know. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm always
summer.
cold, man. I'm always cold. My family, like if it's under 60, I got a hoodie on and I'm cold. Even if it's in the 60s, I'll probably be cold. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And especially as I get older, I feel like my blood maybe ain't pumping like it should or something. Like, cause I'd be
Mm-hmm.
cold all the time, man. It's crazy. But
Yeah.
yeah, man. Well, this has been fun. Thank you for jumping on. And like I think it's you're doing really good work, and I think people should know more about you, which they will over time, especially, and they already do. But I think that you deserve your flowers, man. You and the team, and the royalty team have been really really dope, and I'm glad that you guys came to the brokerage and um, yeah, just keep going, man. Is how do people get in touch with you and the royalty team if they wanna tap in?
Yeah, you can. The best way I think is to go to the Abode website. You'll see us there. Just click on it. You can
Yeah.
separate us, or you can go to our link tree,
Hmm.
linktree / royalty re team. Yeah.
Cool.
Or you can call me 253-861-2782. My
Yep.
phone is an open door.
All right,
So
and we'll put all that in the comments down there. And with that, Hope you enjoyed the conversation. Again, we're gonna have some Black History Month reflection series this month as well coming up. So we got that. We got more real estate content as well. There's a lot going on this month, content wise, here at Abode. So stay tapped in. And with that, enjoy your evening. We'll see y'all next week inside Abode.
All right.
Peace.
Yep. Peace.
Our flat. That was good, man. That was dope.
Perfect.
Really good. Really good. Really dope, man. Just